Hey guys, welcome back to the channel right here on Port Royal Pop, and welcome to the credits roll after party for the Super Mario Brothers movie. Welcome to the show, and I've got a guest joining me at the desk today from Port Royal Gaming and Metro Replay 1UP Design. Welcome to the show. And of course, running the show today is LeBron over on the main cam, over on the mic there. He's just off screen there, but he will be running the show from back there. We're going to spend the next little bit just talking about everything that happened in the Super Mario Brothers movie, which hit theaters on just about over a week ago from when we watched it. So what we're going to do is break this video into parts from the movie. We're going to talk about our first thoughts of the movie. Then we're going to get into a bit of the details of the movie. So we're going to talk about the good parts. We're going to talk about some of the things that we thought were bad. We're going to cover some of the Easter eggs and then just talk about more of the elements of the film each as we break them up. So, full disclosure, this is a spoiler discussion, so if you have not seen the Super Mario Brothers movie, you might not want to watch this video. Maybe just save it to your playlist later and come back and watch it after you've seen the movie, which is a good segue into our first thoughts of the movie. So, Zon, if you'd like to tell us your first reaction coming out of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
So this movie was it's an enjoyable movie, whether you're a fan of the video games or not. I think it's a movie that anyone can sort of watch and get something out of. But I have to say, the amount of references and sort of stuff that they threw in there probably does make up a big chunk of why I enjoyed this movie a lot. All of the references and inspirations drawn from the video games just hit well. They hit on point. Everything just worked for me, and I was incredibly happy with this film.
Yeah, I think I'd echo the what you just said right there. First thoughts coming out of the movie is, if I were to give it like a thumbs up, thumbs down sort of thing, I would say 2 thumbs up for the Super Mario Brothers movie. I thought it was a fun time. I thought the runtime was just okay. It clocks in about 90 minutes, so it's a shorter movie, but it packs a punch, so to speak, and it's pretty fun watching it from the start right through to the finish. First thoughts coming out of the movie, LeBron over there on the desk. What did you think of the movie coming out of it?
It was pretty good.
Pretty good, which is good. Yeah, definitely encourage you guys to, like, if you're watching the video, you've seen it by now, but if you haven't seen it and you're watching it, then definitely encourage you guys to go and watch the movie. It's a fun movie. It's playing in cinemas right now. Okay, so what we're going to do in this next portion of the video is just talk about some of the things that we really enjoyed about the movie. So Zion, have you got any things coming out of the movie that you really enjoyed and keep thinking about?
Might not be the first thing you think of when talking about the entire movie, but the first really good thing I want to bring up is this movie's soundtrack. This so we saw it with let's bring the Sonic movie into this quickly with something. They'd never really delved into the video game music side of it when talking about aspects to bring in from the games. And I think the Mario movie just about did it as well as you could when it comes to the music. Like, just about every song that could be used in an appropriate scene. So like some examples would be like the Starman theme song, the Mushroom Kingdom, just the Mario theme song itself. There's just so many things. Even in the credits too, we got a bunch of songs that aren't that are just straight ripped from the games. Like, I'm glad we're getting this finally on like Spotify and stuff now. But not just the game music. I want to give a special shout out to a certain song that's been given the title of Peaches. That I think lots of people caught a lot of people by surprise when we first saw it.
Unexpected. But yeah, Peaches is probably when you think of the movie, that's probably one of the first scenes you think of. Is that Peaches scene in that musical by Jack Black?
So yeah, that's just the soundtrack. But yeah, I think the animation was superb. I'm not the biggest Illumination kind of person. Can't say I've watched many, if any, of the Illumination films. But some of the shots in this just looked incredible, even some of the effects. I think some things like the water and all that stuff just looked really top notch for an animated film, especially one of this caliber.
So definitely some of the things coming out of that movie are positives for me. Definitely the animation of this movie. I think the visuals and the way that they're animated and all the lighting, everything in this movie looked absolutely glorious. So when we watched this movie, we watched it in a standard sort of cinema. I really want to go and watch this movie on a VMAX screen, like an IMAX format. I think that would help the viewing experience, and I think it'll make it look that so much better. So definitely highlighted that, and like you said, the music as well, and definitely can't go past Peaches. LeBron, do you have a rendition of Peaches there? You ready to go? Or... No?
Oh, on the topic of music, special shout out to the Donkey Kong 64 rap that showed up in its almost original form from the 64 game.
Seeing these iconic characters on the big screen for the first time, I think that in itself is a positive. Representing their game characters so well, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if this is and I believe it is. I think they opened up to like one of the biggest animated movie openings in the box office of all time. So
it's raking in right now.
Box office numbers mean success.
Yeah.
Definitely check this thing out and keep track of what's to come in the future.
Yeah.
All right, so that was any other good moments coming out of the movie? LeBron, have you got any good things coming out of Mario that you really, really had fun with?
Just my favorite part was when Mario and Donkey Kong had beef with each other.
Their whole dynamic.
What about the scene when we see it in the trailer and they have the Super Smash Brothers face-off? Did you enjoy the fight? The Mario and Donkey Kong fight scene?
Yeah, that was pretty good. The cat suit.
Yeah, well, look, we're gonna get into a bit about the Easter eggs and all the different suits in a bit, but that cat suit, to be honest, I wasn't expecting to see so many suits like be taken in the movie, which was made the movie whole much fun, I think, as well.
We didn't see that one.
Didn't see the Tropic Helmet, but we saw the Tanuki suit,
Tanuki suit. Yeah, we'll get into the rest.
the Fire Flower suit, and all that sort of stuff. Definitely that. So another highlight for me was the Mario Kart sequence on Rainbow Road. I thought that was a cool scene. I thought it was a fun scene.
It was a clever way to include it, where it wasn't actually like a race. It was just a scene where they need to travel on the road to somewhere. So then, because the Bowser's troops come in and crash the party on the road, that it sort of turns into a Mario Kart style thing.
And how cool at the very start of that sequence when they're building their carts, and it's like the UI from the Mario Kart games.
They looked like the straight up actual carts from the game. I'm pretty sure they were.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, the crossover from video game to movie. A lot of the elements, like you said, with the music and some of the things that were straight crossed over. And what about the blue shell scene? That was
They gave the blue shell a personality. He was actual Koopa.
Yeah, that caught me off guard.
I was impressed. I thought I giggled. I chuckled a bit at that one. It was pretty funny.
They made it make sense.
As soon as he said, what did he say again? That you can't escape me. They just like tucks into a shell and then wings come out.
Blue shell.
And I'm just like, what?
When I realised what it was, I was just
Yeah,
like,
but
no
I was
way.
like, yeah, no way.
What are some other moments? I'm trying to think of some other things from the movie. Alright, let's talk about how the movie started off in New York as the Plumbers. Brooklyn. I actually enjoyed that setting and some of the characters there, and it's just about two brothers wanting to
Make themselves big.
Make it in Brooklyn.
make it in Brooklyn. And they go in this little, taking on this little plumbing business, and their families are doubting them, and they just want to prove that they belong there and they want to do good.
Rival plumbers to deal with. This movie had Spike was his name, which is obviously a reference to the little spiky ball thing that throws the spiky balls that he grabs. Where in the original movie it was what's that? Scapelli. Scapelli. But yeah, I promise that's the last time we'll mention the
By the
other
way,
movie.
the original movie, we do talk about the 93 Super Mario Brothers Bob Hoskins movie,
I don't want to talk
I
about
don't-
which we won't talk about any further.
Yeah, no.
What was the other thing that I was about to mention is the scene where they're fixing the family's bathroom and the dog.
The dog.
The dog just looks like something out of like an Illumination movie.
It
I
looked
thought
like
that was a
Life
good
of
touch.
Pets.
The end of the movie.
gives the little nod towards the
The
end
nod
of
of
approval. And just the whole little battle they have inside that bathroom. I thought it was pretty funny. Okay. So that was some... And look, by the way, as we go on, we probably will touch back with some other good things that we are reminded of as we move on. But now let's talk about some of the things that we may have not enjoyed so much, or maybe some things that we thought would go into the bad category. And I'm happy to start this thing off. Because watching this movie, there is absolutely no real plot to this movie or real character development in this movie. It just flows on like, okay, things are happening, which is unfortunate. So I see a lot of comparisons made to the Lego movie.
Oh.
So the Lego movie is a movie that was made, also starring Chris Pratt, that was made from a bunch of Lego, like a bunch of figures that, you know, and they applied this wonderful story to the Lego movie, which is something I don't think they really did well here in the Super Mario Brothers movie, unfortunately. I think it just... Okay, so one of the things that really bugged me when I watched it, and by the way, this is, you know, I like the movie a lot, but when Mario first entered Peach's castle and runs into Peach, and Peach says, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" And then he says, "I'm Mario, I'm looking for my brother." And Peach says, "Okay, let's go find Bowser, and let's just run off and go and risk all the Toad Mushroom Kingdom's life to save your brother who I've just met." So that bugged me a little bit. Do you have anything that may have you could add to this?
Oh, I'd probably just echo a bit of what you said, that I feel like they could have either maybe tried to slow the pace down a bit, or maybe given it at least an extra, like, I don't know, 15, half an hour or something. But I don't think they were looking for a 2-hour movie for, you know, the first sort of big return to the screen here. But yeah, there was just a lot of we're here, now we're going on to the next thing. There wasn't a lot of time to kind of stop and just sort of let what's happening sink in. It's just you're on to the next thing like that. But I mean, it tends to happen in movies like this sometimes. The only other thing I can sort of think of, and take this what you will, some people probably don't even see this as a negative. It's just sort of a talking point, I guess, that could be spun into a negative, is that the amount of sort of fan service might be something that could put people off. I know with some people, you know, when you're throwing in all these references and putting all these things in the movie, it does come across as a bit cheap, as a bit sort of a nostalgia pop, if you will. But, you know, that's just if you're someone that sees it that way. It didn't bother me too much in this one. I actually quite enjoyed everything.
Anything to add, LeBron, at the back there?
Anything you didn't like?
I know you really enjoyed this movie. You liked it. There may be things, and you may be people watching.
All I have to know is just it was better than the first Mario movie.
Well, that's a given. That is an absolute given. And hey, there are people, and I don't remember what the numbers are, so the Rotten Tomato score at the moment, I believe...
46 was the critic review?
Actually, LeBron, you want to just jump on Rotten Tomatoes there and check out the Super Mario Brothers? I know that the audience score is a lot. We're talking high 90s.
In the 90s.
And the critic score is mid-range.
Mid.
It is. I guess it's... when you're looking at it from a critical standpoint, they're the ones that'll be focusing on the story elements and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some kind of bogus reviews within the critic ones, mostly because, yeah, they are judging it the way, you know, a film watcher would.
A critic, yeah.
Not like, say, a fan or just a casual movie watcher.
And what is the other score on that one, LeBron?
The audience score.
You've already closed it already, I see. Because I could guarantee...
Audience score was like 96.
There you go. So, that sounds so... Again, that's the same thing. That 96% of audience who've watched it, who are registered on Rotten Tomatoes, recommend it. So I think that's actually a fair balance, to be honest, with how the things goes, because
rarely do the audience and the critics agree.
And we talked about the amount of Easter eggs and the amount of references in the movie, and I, you know, as a fan of the movie, I can definitely see that this may detract certain critics from, and not only just critics, I guess if you're hoping for something a little bit more grounded,
I think
as a fan.
I think that ties back to the whole point about fan service I was kind of bringing up before.
Yeah, I think that'll probably turn those guys off a bit. Whereas if you're all for just a fun time at the movies, a fun nod to the a love letter, so to speak, to the video game franchise, I think you're really going to enjoy this movie, and I think you have enjoyed the movie. All right, so that's talk about the plot, and I guess we can just touch base on one of the things I wanted to bring up is the movie. So I did a bit of looking into the movie, and it was directed by two directors. I don't remember the names of them, but there were two directors of this film who off memory, this is their first feature-length property that they've directed. So, I'm not bagging them or anything, but definitely some inexperience from the directors in terms of bringing a plot front and center of a Mario movie. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this movie is a co-production of Nintendo Illumination, which means that I've seen the reports and I've seen the article that Shigeru Miyamoto
was pretty involved.
Was pretty heavily involved in this movie, and some of the things that he said about the movie, he says that for this movie to be successful, they need to have all these references to the games in it, which I don't particularly agree with. And the other thing he said to make this movie has to be a kids movie. There's no if and or but, it has to be a kids movie.
It's Mario. How can you not make this a kids movie?
Which goes into that, but I think they may, if they had an opportunity to pull out a multi-generational film that has, well, I guess it has those references for the older fans who grew up with Mario, of those other the old heads. But then again, you've got the Katsu, which is not really an old head, but I don't know. I just feel that maybe if they cut back a bit on the fan service and also had a bit more of a mature sort of storyline throughout the movie, I think may have helped that 56% with the critics. Nice. Alright, now we've talked about the Easter eggs a bit. We're going to go into a bit more detail and trying to remember some of the Easter eggs that came up in the movie. So definitely we talked about the suits that were involved. We talked about, if you want to include it, like Mario Kart and the Blue Shell. I guess some of the early Easter eggs that I noticed was definitely he was playing Kid Icarus
on the NES.
On the NES in his room.
Which is another reference self the NES.
The NES playing, and we see Pit, so Pit made an appearance in the movie. And then of course LeBron, what was on top of the TV?
Was it the Star Fox ship?
Oh, he knows it.
The R-Wing.
The R-Wing.
R-Wing was on there. So what's some of the other Easter eggs that popped up in this movie?
Sticking to Mario's room, I know some of the posters in the back were direct references to some things, but one that caught my eye immediately was it wasn't strictly like it didn't have the name, but the poster was in the exact same. It was like a trace over of the original F-Zero Super Nintendo box art. I saw that, I'm like, that's an F-Zero reference. Let's go.
Oh yeah.
What else did they have there? I feel like
we've had it in promotional material, but the van itself, which is in the trailer, and in the commercial. So the commercial that they dropped that. By the way, just going back off Easter eggs for a bit, but the movie started exactly how I've seen a lot of YouTube videos that were cut together.
I saw a tweet where someone's like, this is how I imagine the movie would start, and they like tweeted, and I replied like, man, this would be actually awesome if they did that, and they did.
It was almost scene for scene. The tray, like all that Snow Kingdom stuff, and then Bowser holding the star, and then it goes into the ad, the plumbing ad. So I thought that was cool. The font on so we've seen the van itself, so the font obviously is a reference to the
new Super Mario
video games and some of the pictures in that. What about some of the kingdoms as they're traveling?
Oh yeah, so it appears they're kind of going for like the like when you're playing New Super Mario Bros or something, or any of the Mario games, how each world is a different theme. Like you've got a snow level, a desert level, all that sort of stuff. I noticed so you have the Mushroom Kingdom as the main sort of centerpiece. I saw Yoshi's Island. I saw like a big Yoshi egg in one of the things on the map. There was a sand place that was straight up the Sand Kingdom from Mario Odyssey,
You see that inverted pyramid?
which is one I got very excited for because it had the whole the pyramid and all that. Obviously, there's a snow one because that's where the Mario 64 penguins are. I feel like there was another one that I'm forgetting. Well, there's the Bowser Kingdom, obviously. Yeah, that's the ones I can remember right now. I can't remember if that was all of them or not.
Definitely some of the other references. So, when Luigi was first kidnapped and he goes into that spooky area, that's very reminiscent of Luigi's Mansion. The carts. So, in the Kong arena. So we had a Diddy Kong, which I didn't actually think Diddy Kong would have a speaking.
There
role.
was, like they straight up said his name too. Cranky Kong did, but there was Diddy, and then after that we saw Dixie Kong next to him. Chunky Kong was next to him as well. So had the whole almost the whole DK64 cast. I feel like I don't think we saw Lanky Kong because he's the other character from DK64. The fact that they were there was awesome.
And I said it before, but the scene was like a Super Smash Brothers fight, which is cool.
Well, we speaking of like Smash Brothers, like going sort of towards the end of the movie, after they kind of grab Bowser by the tail, Mario 64 style, and throw him up, Mario and Luigi did the whole Mario forward air spike, and like literally spiked him back into the ground.
And even what about the Mario run?
Yes.
We had the Power Star, and had the music playing.
Yeah, it goes back to the music, but I guess the music is sort of like, it's sort of an Easter egg in its own self too. Like you remember when they first jumped onto Rainbow Road and it started playing the Super Nintendo Rainbow Road theme? I was just like...
Actually, well, when they were getting ready for the kart sequence, it played the little opening tune that you hear in Mario Kart.
Oh, the Illumination logo.
Oh yeah, let's go back to the start.
Had the Mario Kart countdown.
The Minion. The Minion. And then... Oh, I've got to say, I think the Nintendo logo could have used a bit of a beef up.
It definitely ain't the Sega film logo.
It's well, when I think of the other video game movie logos, like you said, the Sega and the PlayStation studios, even the Xbox studios for the Halo series. But then, yeah, I suppose it doesn't really change the movie. But yeah, I thought they could have made it a bit more of a epic intro.
I'd have to go back and sort of see the scene again, but I've read that when Mario and Luigi, their truck's broken down and they have to jump and run through the streets of Brooklyn there, it goes to that side, like, sort of game kind of view that if you sort of look at some of the blocks in that first section, it kind of lines up with 1-1 from Mario Brothers. There's like a bit when they jump the fence, and then you can sort of see there's like some slightly oddly coloured bricks that almost line up with that sort of very first section with the pipe and stuff. And I don't know about the rest of the level, but that in particular I did notice.
I'll have to check that out because and that happened twice in the movie. So the one when they were in that area, and then again when they were running through the Mushroom Kingdom and they did the side-ons. So that that was a good visual Easter egg, I guess, to the video game.
Oh, how was that Peach's Castle music when they come from Mario 64? That's another one that I forgot about.
That's the one.
I was just... This whole movie, like, even all the enemies and everything that shows up, like, they've got, what was it? Those little bug thingies that sort of travel in a line.
Yep.
They had those...
Wigglers, I think? No, not them.
They had them big things that walk like that.
You got big bomb guy from 64.
King Bob-omb
was at the wedding. By the way, the wedding sequence was... I was thinking of Odyssey.
Damn.
Bowser was wearing the white tuxedo.
The white... Yeah, Mario Odyssey. That's one thing I was, like, kind of shocked about, is that there's references and Easter eggs from very recent sort of games. Like, all up talking about Mario Odyssey that we've got references to. So they're picking from basically the entire Mario series.
The library.
Okay, Peach got the ice flower.
Peach got the ice flower.
The way the power-ups were kind of treated in this movie was, I think it was cool. It was very literal, like, straight from the game. You get hit, you lose the power-up.
Yeah.
And the way they kind of...
Lose the power-up is,
literally eating the mushrooms and all that kind of stuff. And there was the whole joke that Mario doesn't like mushrooms.
There was the bad mushroom that shrinks you.
Yeah, the little blue one from.
LeBron, what do you tell us about the shrinking mushroom? Because I believe over in Port Royal Smash, you were victim to it a few times.
It is the worst item in Smash.
I think they call it the poison mushroom.
The poison.
This little blue one in particular, I know is from New Super Mario Brothers on the DS. Because yeah.
I was expecting to see the giant mushroom.
The giant
You
Yeah,
didn't
or
see the
something.
giant mushroom. What the hell?
The bob-omb, bullet bills, they were pretty scary actually. They were
The Bunzo Bill. That was
pokes him in the
one
eye.
of my favorite scenes is when he just like distracts the bullet bill by jabbing it in the eyeball.
I'm trying to think what other cool Easter eggs were there in this movie. There was heaps and heaps.
The restaurant that was called Punch Out.
The whole Punch Out restaurant
Punch Out
had all the
restaurant.
characters up on the wall. So Little
The-
Mac and Doc
Oh.
Lewis, Glass Joe. I don't know my Punch Out characters, so I recognise them.
Charles Martinet's voice.
He was the old man
He was the old man who did the Yahoo
next to the
when they were
Jumpman arcade machine.
jumping. Yeah, that was him. Which
I could be wrong too, but I heard somewhere that he's also Mario's father.
oh, it could be.
He voices Mario's father in
It
it.
could be because they did say that Charles Martinet is going to be in the movie, like not just these throwaway lines. He would have a part in the movie, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was him.
It makes sense that the father of Mario...
LeBron's going to fact check us for us.
You fact check.
Cast.
I guess that, you know, we may circle back to Easter egg, but it's a good segue because the next sequence that we plan to talk about is voices, some of the voice acting. So going into this movie, when the first trailer was dropped, there was this big uproar about Chris Pratt's casting as Mario. And it went on and on and on, right up until this past week, on the last episode of Big Screen, Small Screen, when you joined me, Charles Martinet was Giuseppe.
Yes.
Giuseppe.
That's Giuseppe. But leading right up to, even Chris Pratt had to come out and say, just watch the movie and then come back and talk.
Yeah.
So for people who just watched the movie and going back to talk to Chris Pratt, to be honest, I would say that would be shut.
Chris
I,
Pratt.
I think that would be shut because after watching the first 15 minutes of the movie, you'd be like, well, this is Mario. That was how I watched it.
I think he's owed a bunch of apologies from the Twitter crowd.
Yeah, they have doubted him.
And so,
first.
on the producer desk over there, LeBron would like to say this to Chris Pratt.
I'm sorry.
That said, there's a certain other editor here at the Port Royal Network that is still doubting him because he hasn't seen the movie just yet. Mr.
Tsunami
Delvin,
Papi.
Tsunami Papi. When you watch the movie, it will change your mind. That's all I'm gonna say.
I think, yeah, like, and they explained the whole, like, the accent was for the ad, and then it says the accent too much. I think that was cool.
They explained why he doesn't do the voice. It's like because it's silly.
Yeah, and I think definitely after, and I think Miyamoto also said in one of the interviews that they needed somebody to portray emotion through voice acting, so that's why they chose to have that. Again, right decision after watching the movie. Charles Day as Luigi, which is, again,
Charlie Day.
is again that
He
was
was good.
although there wasn't much like backlash against anybody apart from Mario. Though when Jack Black was announced as Bowser, there seems to be a whole lot of support
Universal
for it.
praise.
Universal praise before, and I believe now,
And he proved
after
them right.
the Mario Brothers movie.
I just love Jack Black, so.
Jack Black as Bowser, I think was, what do I call it, perfect casting? Yeah.
Well, who else could it have been? I can't think of anyone who would have done a
Also,
better
yeah,
job.
Mr. Delvin was also hating on Jack Black.
Mr. Delvin needs to watch this movie before he...
He's a straight up hater.
I think Charlie
Hair in the
Day,
hills.
it would have been nice if Charlie Day got a bit more to sort of do and say, but he did good with what he had.
Yeah, and let's, we'll talk about the plot of the movie is that it took away that Peach was the one that was kidnapped and Luigi was the one that was saving. So I guess that explains why we didn't have much Luigi, because he was sort of prisoner. And well, that brings us back to the Easter eggs. We had the Luma in the prison, that
All gonna die.
happily depressed Luma.
That was like, to me, the most Illumination inclusion in this whole film. I could tell Nintendo had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
The whole edgy humor thing.
I struggled to see how that lined up.
Oh, I loved it.
LeBron loved it, but yeah, that
Different
was
humor for different people.
Yeah, and you look, that's the thing about films and movies here on Port Royal Pop is it's all subjective. They hit you in different ways. That one didn't really hit me in the right way. Hit LeBron in the right way, so.
I like that.
Yeah. What else was in? I didn't see many things in the cages of memory.
I feel, wasn't there just like
Would
other
I be off the piranha plane?
There are other enemies.
minions? There's just other Koopas and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe like
Look, going into, I was half expecting, being an elimination film and kids
minion?
movie, that there'll be a minion somewhere in the background.
Probably is.
Like maybe in the cage, like a minion swaying in the cage. Have to watch it again maybe to see if there is, but I haven't seen anything about minions showing up, any articles yet. So there is probably one voice of a character that didn't really sit well with me.
for me, there's two, but I'll get into that when it's my turn.
LeBron, have you got any characters that didn't sit well with you in the voice? Just a number. If you got 1, 2, maybe none. So I've got 1, you've got 2. So my 1 is Cranky Kong.
Oh, Cranky.
Frankie.
I don't know. Like Cranky comes off as a bit older. The voice that I was hearing didn't really match an older Kong, like not Kong, but an older person. That for me, like he sounded very like it was a young. I can't remember who was cast as Cranky Kong, but to me, listening to the voice and seeing the character on screen just didn't really line up for me. So that just sort of bugged me just a bit. So who are you? Your two.
So mine was not Cranky. I actually enjoyed him, probably just because he was like, it's just real witty and real sassy.
Yeah, he was witty and sassy.
I was just laughing at what he was saying, but my first is Donkey Kong, Seth Rogen. I feel like there was a bit too much of just Seth Rogen in the voice rather than sort of Donkey Kong, including the laugh. Which I was actually I was happy when he did that. That was funny. But it kind of just felt like he didn't put the most sort of effort into it.
So that goes back to what we covered on the show last week. Is that Seth Rogen also said, I don't do voices. I don't do voice acting. I don't do voices. The voice that I'm going to be doing in the movie is my voice, is what he said. So I guess that's. With that, like, I don't know, it's just Seth Rogen. There's certain characters in movies and like animated movies where you try to get invested in the character, but you just hear the voice and you just think, you can't think of. If you've just got Seth Rogen's picture in your mind as he's talking.
It was just Seth Rogen.
It was just Seth Rogen. There was no Donkey Kong spin to it, so. I mean, that was disappointing.
It still served its purpose, though. But the other character,
and it served the purpose because on the flip side of that, Seth Rogen is incredible. So you get to pass, I guess.
So the other character that I have to say I wasn't too over the moon with was Toad. I think he, especially for who was playing him, I feel like Toad could have been a bit more, I don't know, crazier. Obviously, I'm not talking about there wasn't one Toad in the film that sort of sounded like, hey Mario! Which I think would have been hilarious if we did get one. But, I don't know, his voice seemed a bit too, I don't know how to describe this, human-like for Toad.
That plus, I think, going back to before, it's not the voice that lines up with what you're seeing on the screen, I think, is the problem with Toad.
Yeah, his voice is kind of, deeper than what I picture Toad's voice should be.
And what about the I don't know if he's a general or the leader of the Toads who had that really deep voice and
the character that should have been Toadsworth. Why didn't they make him Toadsworth?
Yeah. So you agree with Toad, LeBron, over on the side there?
Yeah, I was gonna go back to an Easter egg. It's when the two guards at the front, the Toads, saying that the princess was in another castle.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, what was their voice like? I can't even remember.
Like, oh yeah, the princess. What
Yeah, it
princess?
was normal.
The princess is in another castle.
Of course, throw back to the video game when you complete a level and princess is not here. But yeah, Toad. And look, that just goes back to what I said at the start when I was talking about the bad stuff is like this movie and the plot. When Mario lands there, Toad says, "Oh, you're here now. Let's go into the castle and all that sort of stuff. Come with me. Let's go." And it's just like everything just flows really quickly and just like doesn't really match up, but it's still a good time.
I want to say though, shout outs to Anya Taylor-Joy for the Peach. I think she did a good job. She's like Peach. She's portrayed sort of a little differently to what you would in the games, but not too different. There's definitely a lot of the crowd that was kind of like, what's this all about? You know, she's supposed to be the damsel in distress. She's supposed to be like getting rescued by Mario. Clearly, they've like not played any Mario game past like the first one, especially like, you know, the second game. You literally play as her, and like look at what she does in like Smash Brothers and all that stuff, and like Mario Kart. Like, hello.
Another voice that I really enjoyed and a character that I actually enjoyed was Kamek.
Oh, the king of the Koopas.
The king of the Koopas. And now look, we touched on it a bit, but let's get right into that Bowser Peaches sequence.
Peaches.
So I think,
Peaches,
yeah.
Peaches.
So you mentioned your MVP,
Yeah, Bowser.
Bowser, and Peaches. I'm guessing is a big factor towards it.
Yep.
It was so unexpected.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It caught me off
It was
guard.
so Jack Black, and by the time it was done, it's like, yeah, this actually does kind of make sense now.
And yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like when you actually think about it, it actually would fit the character of Bowser, if in this world that they've built. So
It's not the first time he's tried to marry Princess Peach.
yes, and by the way, he was he was pretty hard on doing it too. Like,
He tried to do it in literally the last mainline Mario game, Odyssey. So
and the way he did it in this movie is borderline illegal. So I thought that's the edge that they were pushing. That sort of let's just keep it at that.
I have to say that my MVP of the film, it might be Bowser too. I think. I'm gonna give it to Bowser, Jack Black.
Yeah, I give it. Look, I'm going to give it to Mario.
But yes, that's my close second.
I'm going to give it to Mario because Chris Pratt came out. He had the whole world, including this one over here, to prove them wrong, and he came out and delivered a good performance and a good start for. Hopefully, this is the start. We'll get to this in a bit, but hopefully this is more of Mario that's to come. But I'm going to give it to Chris Pratt as Mario as my MVP for the movie. I think. Oh, we actually didn't mention as well now. So we actually didn't mention the end credit scenes. So there were two.
Oh,
The first one was,
Bowser and
Bowser
the
singing again.
singing
On the
again
piano.
in miniature.
and the
That's
second
right,
one.
They defeated him and gave him the mini mushroom.
They knew it was money, so they put the singing in twice.
Yeah, they knew was a winner. But then the second one is the
Yoshi
look
egg.
at the Yoshi that we know.
It's gone
Yoshi
through
egg.
all of the
Because the
destruction.
Mushroom Kingdom and the real life world maybe is starting to merge.
They started to blip a bit, and we get that Yoshi egg. So we did see Yoshi in the movie, by the way. We didn't
There was
mention that as
a
well.
herd of them, of the Yoshis.
The herd of Yoshis, like the Final Smash and Super Smash, or the opening of Melee.
Yeah, that was just the egg of Yoshi.
But then that's the green and white egg.
It was
For
opening
Yoshi.
too, wasn't it? We got a
It was
little Yoshi
shaking,
was
voice
cracking. And then we get the voice Yoshi
straight from the game.
straight from the game. I think they could have left the voice out and everybody would have known who it was, but they put
Yeah.
that in. Definitely a thing for things to come. So let's look to the future. Obviously there is plans to have this in a bit of a franchise. Now, do you see this being a Super Mario Brothers franchise, or do you think Nintendo are going to spread out a bit and spread their wings a bit? What do you think this is going to be moving forward?
Well, this one's tough because it could go either way. The way they've sort of structured this movie and the title and everything, all that sort of stuff, makes me think that if this is just a one-off, that I could see it being that way. Just a one and done kind of movie, and that maybe they think about expanding to other franchises. rather than going, straight for a sequel for this one. Personally, I think I'd prefer that. I'd like to see them explore some other franchises, like just imagine like a Star Fox movie or a Metroid movie. I don't think they're ready to tackle Zelda just yet. I think we're still the memories of the IGN fake Zelda movie trailer still fresh in my brain, and I'm not ready to move on from that. But I think we will get a sequel down the line. The Yoshi thing, while it was a teaser, it wasn't exactly like a plot setup. It was just like, it was so minuscule that I could see them just leaving it at that and maybe exploring other options. So it doesn't really matter what they do. I'll be there anyways to see
It's
it.
kind of like refresh. Does Mario have any other enemies besides Bowser?
Well, aside from some of the sub villains other games, like Odyssey has the Broodals, the big rabbit things. The only way I can sort of see this movie going forward is if we take it to space, Mario Galaxy.
Yeah, let's get space.
Space.
I suppose you could class Bowser Jr.
Oh,
as
Bowser Jr.
another
didn't
main
kids.
villain.
and all the Koopa kids.
So whether there's a Koopa Kids introduced, but look, I would actually think that they would move on a sequel first before spreading out. I think they would probably try to
Get their footing, I
get
guess.
the footing based off this this franchise here, and then look at what's to come.
Animation always makes second movies.
I don't know what it's gonna be. It could be anything. I mean, it could be Star Fox. It could be when you think of Nintendo, you think of Zelda and Mario. But like you said, I don't think they'll move on Zelda just yet. I think they'll do maybe some sort of Yoshi. I don't know.
I mean, I would like to see a Star Fox movie.
Star
Yes.
Fox would be pretty good.
They ain't making games anymore, so you
Yeah.
might as well. Hell, give me an F-Zero movie. Give me
Yeah.
like a Speed Racer F-Zero movie.
Okay, so to finish off this video, any final thoughts? And what we're going to do next is here on the channel we give a 5-star rating system. I give this movie, the Super Mario Brothers movie, equates to 3 stars out of 5.
Now, I feel like me and LeBron here is probably going to have a bit higher of a score because we're,
Yeah, I mean, big kid brain, so
We-
actually
we-
enjoy this.
and just everything that this movie did. While obviously, it wasn't a perfect movie, but this thing ticks so many boxes right for me that I'm going to be giving it a 4 out of 5.
So 8 out of 10.
Yeah, 8 out of 10.
Out of 10.
There you have it. So 4 stars and a 3-star rating right here on Credits Roll. Alright guys, thanks for sitting and talking about us, talking with us about the Super Mario Brothers movie, the first feature-length film between the collab of Nintendo and Illumination. Hopefully one of many, many more to come. But the most important question is, what did you guys think about the Super Mario Brothers movie? Whatever you guys thought, jump to the comment section below and let us know what you thought there. And let's get a discussion around the Super Mario Brothers movie. Alright, for everybody here in the studio today, thanks for watching this video, and if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and the notification bell to stay up to date for the next time we go live here on Port Royal Pop. But for now, it is Let's Go!